Wet dreams.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, gentlemen. Victor, appreciate you coming on, brother.
Cheers.
I know you no longer partake in the alcoholic beverages, which is A-okay by us, but we still have a good time, and we are still willing to allow the competition to try and catch up to us while we're a little drunk on Wednesdays. So appreciate you coming on, brother.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, no worries.
Always like to tune into your guys' podcast. You guys always bring something interesting to the table.
We like to have fun at the very least. Awesome. For those of you that don't know Victor, which I guess you're not on Facebook if you don't know Victor, because he is everywhere on there. He's all over the Facebook groups, adding as much value as he possibly can. He's a CEO of Absolute Airflow, crushing it down in the SoCo area. Also the co-founder of Service Rocket, which is out to add as much value to the industry as possible, taking people to the moon and back. Dude, it's been incredible.
I'm the sole founder of Service Rocket. So
okay, so I don't know where the co-founder came from in our notes there.
I ain't co-founder or nothing. That's my business. So
appreciate the correction.
We'll edit that. For the notes later.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all good. It's all good. A lot of people get the confusion, but yeah, no, this is my business. So
absolutely. No, and I mean, incredibly busy guys. So busy that you thought the show was yesterday. You've got a lot on the go constantly between your podcast, your coaching group, adding as much value as possible, your business that you're running on the daily basis, making sure that that's functioning properly. How the hell are you making it all work right now? Just being sober, that's helping a lot, or what?
No, man. I mean, obviously, I've been a hustler for, 7 years now since I even started in the trade. I've been working my ass off, and now I'm trying to position myself to where I get to help as many people as possible, and that's kind of what I've been able to do over the last 6-8 months. Has been, my life has kind of gone in a different direction, and I've been really focusing on putting systems and processes in place in my company. So obviously, my AC company now, I don't have to be in the day to day. I got systems in place, I got processes. We're making money, and I don't got to be there. So it's allowed me to free up a lot. And one of the big things I always do is try to find people to fill roles. People that can take stuff off my plate. And so I have a lot of stuff off my plate, but like my mind is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I mean, that's the only caveat. Like I'm always thinking of what's next, what can I do, how can I get better, how can I help more people, and that's kind of what my focus has been.
No, it's been something that I've admired about you for a long time. It's just that the brain going a mile a minute and how quick you are to implement something new. Where did that come from?
I think
is that just the ADD that's kicking in, or what?
I got, obviously I've had bad ADD my whole life. And I think, it took me a long time to get real confident in anything that I did. And now, I think, as I started getting older, I got bullied a lot as a kid. So a lot of people wonder why, I've been doing, since I got sober, I've been trying to do a lot of heavy detail, thinking about why do I act like I act? Why do I do things that I do? And, a lot of it sort of stems back, like anybody's, back to childhood, right? Childhood trauma, things you've been through. Things that you've seen, things that people you've been around, stuff like that. And a lot of it circles back to that. And a lot of what I do circles back to my childhood. I always wanted to be popular. I always wanted to be one of the cool kids. And I got picked on a lot in elementary school and shit. And ever since then, I've always tried to figure out what I had to do to be the guy, right? And it's always been something I've chased. So I think that, that's part of what I do. That's part of who I am. And I'm learning now, I make a lot of decisions based off that. And I'm trying to change that mindset, right? Because even now, I still have imposter syndrome, right? And I still feel like I don't belong. I feel like I'm not worthy. And I get around these group of people and I talk about some of the stuff I'm doing, and I'm like, I feel like I don't belong there, but I'm like, wait, no, I do. And they're listening to me. And I'm like, it's still kind of weird to me. So a lot of it's just, I'm a self-driver. I'm a self-light. I'm going to go every single day. I'm trying to get better. And now it's just I feel like I have such a big goal now, and I have direction. I know what I want to do, and I already have the next 5 years kind of planned out at this point. So now it's just trying to execute. So it gives me a little drive every day to keep trying to do things. And then I like to, when opportunities arise, I like to take them.
There's a lot of different ways I want to take that right now.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I guess let's go to this one because it was the most recent thing that you just said. So you've got your 5-year vision, but when opportunities come up, you want to be able to take advantage of them. What filtering process do you have in place in terms of making a decision and yes, this is benefiting me and getting me to that 5-year goal versus this is something that's going to pull me away from it and potentially derail me from hitting that 5-year goal?
Yeah, I mean, a lot, it's really important because what happens is, especially ADD people, we got squirrel brain. So I try to do my best in every decision saying, hey, is this going to get me closer to where I want to go? Is this going to get me where I want to, is this going to push me forward or pull me back? And that comes from, the drinking stuff or, hey, I don't want to do any more traveling, sales training, because that's taken away from my ability to do other stuff. A lot of people don't realize when I was traveling to do the sales training, obviously I'm stepping away from my multi-million-dollar business, that now has to run without me. I can no longer answer my phones all day. I can't handle all the other stuff. Like it took, I was looking at them like, didn't matter how much they paid me. I was losing money every time I did it. Then I was away from my family because that's one of the big things. Like I told myself, 3 months ago, I'm like, I'm just not doing it anymore. I won't do the traveling. If I have to be away from, I don't want to be away from my kids. So, that's one of the big things. I want to focus on being more for my kids, but also be able to continue to grow my businesses and be successful. So I had to really decide what really mattered to me and what I really want to be part of. So I think being able to decide that which is a good choice and bad choice has been a big impact.
It's amazing. Gary Keller has a quote that says, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else. And when you realize what it is that you're saying yes to and how it's pulling you away from the things that actually matter, it's incredibly eye-opening. And I've seen so many more posts that you put out with you and your kids recently. And it's awesome to see that you're spending more time with them, you're there to be able to be for them. Yeah,
I mean, it's a give and take on anything. Like even like for me, like I want to take over the world sometimes, but I'm like, okay, if I try to do all this stuff, what's going to happen to the rest of it? So you have to like really focus on your main things, right? Yeah. Like I have obviously Absolute's one of my main things, right? Service Rocket, growing, selling out this event, which we just officially sold it out. Selling out the event was a main thing. And then, now going forward, like I'm doing part of my acquisition stuff. So helping these other partners of ours grow their businesses and scale them and be able to run help them grow their business has been what I've been working on.
Love it. I want to go back to that childhood piece. One, I want to express gratitude in the fact that you actually even were vulnerable enough to share some of that. Because, a lot of people see this superhero persona that you've created online of, this guy that nothing can fluster. That, you've got emotion, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You're not willing to go to bat and challenge someone online for something that you believe in. But this guy that's just going to take over the world a lot of times. And to hear that come from such a vulnerable place of being picked on as a kid, being bullied as a kid. I went through the same shit. I'm sure most kids do at some point.
It's part of life.
It is, absolutely. And it's part of what makes you tough or makes you weak or fragile millennial. That was the Halloween costume at last year's Service Rocket event. But no, I'm very curious as to how you started to transition that into what used to be a weakness maybe as a child to now being a strength as an adult and something that you're going to continue to leverage to push yourself forward in a healthy way, not an unhealthy way.
Yeah, it's first you got to realize who you are, right? Like, and I think that's one of the things that over the last couple of years I haven't even been myself. And I think once you realize, who you are, what your core values are, and what you believe in, and then you just got to stick to those things. And I think that my confidence thing. I've had confidence for a while now, but as a kid I did it, and I now I'm like as an adult, like even now, like I still find myself in weird situations where I'm just like, almost like I'm back to my childhood and some of these positions, and I'm like, dude, why am I like that? So it's really it's a constant work, right? It's always everybody. You have a constant battle with yourself, right? No matter what you're doing, it's usually you versus yourself. You have that little thing going in your head saying you can't do it. And I think I found a way to just kind of shut that off for the most part. So a lot of the stuff I put myself in rooms and situations that most people won't even do. And even I'm uncomfortable, right? Like the last year's event, I had never spoken in front of that many people in my life. Okay. And not only am I speaking in front of it, but I threw the fucking event. Right. So stuff like that. And this year we're expecting 1,000 people in Vegas for this event. And I'm about to go speak in front of the most people I've ever spoken in front of. And I'm going to be telling a very vulnerable story. I'm going to be telling the real story about like growing my business. And I'm fucking nervous, but it's like, you got to keep putting yourself in those positions that help you grow. Right. Cause once you do it once, then you can go bigger, and I think that's, one of the things, like my goal as a business owner and entrepreneur is to remove the stigma that everybody wins all the time. Because social media does that. Right. And I've been making a lot of posts, and it's part of what I'm going to be talking about in Vegas is my failures. Because I think the more you talk about failures and the more vulnerable you become, the more free you could be. Right. So like before I used to think like, man, so like people used to be able to say shit about me, but no one can say shit about me anymore. Cause I say about myself, like, I don't give a fuck. I got nothing to hide anymore. And the way that you're able to like release that shit, it literally puts you on a whole different level. Cause everybody has their lives and all their bullshit they're dealing with. When you're able to like actually be yourself, then it's life changing, to be honest. And that's where I'm at now. I don't have to pretend I'm anything. I say, hey, if I fail, I'll tell you I failed. If I won, I'm going to tell you I fucking won. And there's no sugarcoating in between.
Right. So that was actually one of the things that I wrote down, TJ, by the way. I was just biding my time before I asked the question, and we got onto the topic naturally. In case he's wondering, he was commenting there that he's never seen me so quiet. But, you made this part about your journey to being self-aware and understanding, that you have imposter syndrome. And I do want to go back a little bit to this journey to becoming self-aware, because I don't think a lot of people have this understanding of knowing this, but it also ties into, the part about removing that stigma on online, of what people only see. They don't actually see, you choose what they want you to see, and you only show the wins. You don't ever talk about the failures. But what was the journey like to becoming self-aware? And what was your biggest eye-opening moment, as Mike Aguilera talks about, in terms of hitting your wall, where you reach this breaking point where something's got to break and something's got to snap? What was that for you in order to be able to have this self-awareness that you now have?
I mean, I got humbled last year, man. I got humbled big time. Like I made an acquisition in the end of 2020. Going into 2021, I thought I was the shit. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't dial in my numbers. I was just hiring people. I was doing wild shit as a business owner. And I was doing a lot of it just to show off. Like I was doing a lot of it out of ego, right? And my ego got me in a bad position to where shit, I was about 3-4 days away from bankruptcy, right? And at the end of 2021, I think in October 2021, I was on the verge of bankruptcy, and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't talk about it. I just wanted to hold my persona, like to have this fake persona that I had. And I'm like, fuck them. And I remember going and thinking I'm going to lose everything. And I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? And I had to bite my ego. I had to go and start making some phone calls and talking to some people. And I'd come to the conclusion that we were going to file bankruptcy. Like that's where we were at. And when you've ever been in that position, you'll understand what it feels like. And I came to that decision. And then within like 5 hours, I came to a different decision. Like, no, fuck that. I want to figure out any way to get around this. So, I did a lot of stuff, and I'm going to talk about it at the event, the things I had to do over those next 2 weeks to be able to save my business from bankruptcy. And then what all the checks and balances I had to put in place to make sure not only that never happened again, but I'd be able to scale a business that's going to be successful. So a lot of people, like, they can say whatever they want about me, but I can tell you they would have fucking quit. Like they would have had no opportunity. They would have gave up at that moment. And that's not how I operate. So I got to really realize who I was at that point. And when I was going through that, I thought to myself, I'm like, dude, I got to share my story, because there's other people that are going through some shit. And if nobody ever talks about it, they feel like they're alone, and they feel like they're a failure, and that they end up giving up when they shouldn't,
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you can either go through the failures yourself, or you can stand on the shoulders of others who have been there before and right. Learn from it. So you don't have to go through that pain.
For the benefit of our guests, I would like to ask, that story, but we will save that for after your event. For those that don't come in, we can maybe do a special feature on that particular topic, because we don't want to take anything away from that event. I know it's sold out, so you can't even get your tickets. So we'll have to do that after. Maybe
get on the wait list, maybe.
Fee, right? Get on the wait list, maybe. So
check OnlyFans for a live stream.
That's just the after parties.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when So you're at the point of almost filing bankruptcy. You said that's October of last year. You threw your event at the end of October. So is this
So
early
it
on?
must have been. It was like, well, it was like November actually. So I was
Okay.
just thinking like the event was October. It was like November, probably late November last year. Now that I put a date on it,
Right.
so obviously you got to think about it. I spent last year, my entire year, focusing on everything besides for my business.
Right.
I was focusing on building the Hero app. I was focusing on the event. I was focusing on all these things, and I was trusting a lot of people to run my business for me. And my overhead had ballooned like insane. Everybody was getting overpaid. I had 3 people doing one person's job. I had just so many inefficiencies in my business, and everybody was getting paid besides for me. And so it got to the point where it's like, oh fuck, like if I didn't get back into the business, so even it started in like October that I tried to turn shit. I started to like kind of turn stuff around. But at that point, it was like a full steam engine going ahead, because what happens is when you start having months where you're losing money. Well, your vendors aren't due for 60 days. So it allows you to have that time. And all of a sudden the bell rings and they're like, hey, you can't get any more equipment until you fucking pay us. And so it was like a slow moving train. And then eventually it got to the point where like, hey, we're a fucking couple days away from that train hitting the station there. And if we don't figure this out, we're fucked. So even in October, I had gone kind of silent on social. I was just getting my head down. I even talked about it a little bit at Uncle Joe's event last year. I was kind of vulnerable there and talked about it, but not to the extent that I do now. And I didn't know how bad it was until about November.
And so what was that realization when you finally had to look in the mirror and realize that shit might go sideways? What was the first signal to you that you were in trouble?
Oh, they were going to shut off all my accounts. Like I wasn't going to be able to buy equipment, and I got to pay payroll, and I got to do all this other shit. So you had to, obviously, thank God, like I put myself in a position where I made a lot of money doing other things. So like I wasn't like the business wasn't making money, but I had to personally take all my cash that I made doing everything else and dump it into the business to save it.
Right.
I mean, luckily you had that nest egg, right, to be able to reinvest into your business again after 4 years of growing it. So, without trying to take too much away from the story that you're going to say, you said that your business was ripe with inefficiencies, and there's a lot of different ways that I can go. But in hearing this and in knowing our audience and what we try to bring out in the show is try to help people understand what they can do in their own business. Looking at what you learned from that. If you're to say what's your 1 or 2 things that somebody should look at from an efficiency standpoint in their business, what should they be looking at?
I mean, the first thing, I would, if I'm you and I'm like, okay, man, I want to start making money, I would take my organizational chart and I'd put it on a wall, and then I would map out every single person's job in that organization, and I would find out if any of them are overlapping. If any are overlapping, you got to ask yourself, how can I either eliminate the overlap and eliminate that person, or repurpose it to a position that I need? So that's something you got to do. Like if you got things that are overlapping, 2 people doing the same job, that's an inefficiency, right? So figuring that out and then writing out the processes of each position throughout the organization, from the technician, the sales guy, the call center manager, dispatcher, install manager, whatever it is, you have to you document what their job and what their description is. And then you got to start actually holding them accountable to those positions. And if they're not following those positions, then you have to have repercussions. It can't just be, it happens. Like you have to stay on it all the time. Like even me, like now I'll fall back a little bit. Then I'm like, fuck, I got to go back and go smack them around again. Right. So you have to, as a business owner, it's a relentless every day, day in and day out, because human nature is to not follow the process. Human nature is to do the easiest thing. So you have to get your team bought in, and then you got to hold them accountable. And if you don't hold them accountable, you're going to keep failing over and over and over. And I've been there. Even since then, I've failed a couple of times again, because I'm not, I get busy, and then I got to go back and hold them accountable again. So go through your organization, figure out exactly what everybody does, how they do it, and why they do it that way. Figure out if there's a better way they can do it, and figure out if you really need that many people to operate your business. So you'd be surprised that, a lot of people, they have extra people and they cut the fat, and you'd be surprised how much more work the rest of your staff could do. Most of them are wasting their time away anyways. Like if they're going to lunch every day, they're doing all this stuff every day, they're not really work to their max capacity, going taking long lunches and just you got to make sure that they're there to work. And if they're not working, then you shouldn't be paying them. I was at one point I was like I felt like I was an NFL star, an NBA star. I had a fucking entourage around me just hanging out with me.
where the camera's falling around too.
Yeah.
How much can technology assist in that?
Obviously there's ways out there that you can make your business more efficient. I made the switch to Sarah in October. I haven't lost a single penny since October. So all of a sudden I started making money. I started eliminating positions I didn't need. It allowed me to, cut down my overhead, my office staff by about 2/3. So I run my business. We'll do over 20 million this year with less than 9 people in the office.
Wow.
And I do just want to take a moment. I know you kind of led me into that perfectly, by the way. I was hoping that it was the answer you're going to give, because it wouldn't be remiss if I didn't say, if you want to find out more about Sarah, they're also a sponsor of our show. Sarah.tech is the technology that he's talking about, SERA .tech for those that are listening later. And we've heard from you, we've heard from others how efficient they can make a business in terms of just the things that they can do. Hop on a demo, get in touch with them, because it's amazing when you have the data that you're able to look at, and like one of the things I like about Sarah is on a per job basis. You can compute your gross margins just on a per job, right? And then your nets, and having that understanding of your financials is huge. So obviously with that, in terms of financials, having a business almost, couple hours away, a couple days away from filing bankruptcy. What sort of checks have you put in place for your financials now that you have a greater understanding of what you should not do in a business?
So obviously you got to have your daily financials, right? Know exactly what your daily overhead, what does it cost you to run your business every single day? I know that I get 4 reports a day, exactly where my overhead is, what my net profit's going to be, what's my gross profit, what are we installing, how much service revenue. Like I know I can tell you right now, within about 2 seconds, I'll tell you exactly what we're doing for today. So today we're at $54,000 in sales this morning. Right now, our gross profit for the day is $58,000. We've done $5,000 in service profit. Our overhead's $19,500. Our net profit today is $44,000 in net today. And that's out. So today we're going to make $44,000 as a business. That's if we don't do anything else the rest of the day, which I would imagine we're going to do more the rest of the day. So that's the kind of power of knowing your numbers and knowing your business, that if you don't have that, if you're not looking at it every day, you don't know it every day, then you're not really running a business. You're just playing a game.
Well, and that's the point that you made earlier before we even started the show, that idea of vanity numbers versus the real numbers, right? Everyone, it talks about top line revenue, how much business you're doing, having $1 million day, $1 million week. Oh, what do we got?
I don't know if they'll show it.
Came in?
No, I was going to show you. It's a report that I get every day. You probably can't see it on the camera.
No, we can't see it.
It tells me everything I need to know about my business all day long.
Nice. But that's
it's a constant pulse, right? To be able to know where it's at and what's happening. And if you don't look at it daily or, by the hour, having something daily that comes in and leverage technology, guys. Like there's people that still do it on yellow pad technology and pen and paper. And they're like, well, I like to do it once a week, so I know it's coming and coming out. Well, get into 2022 and leverage technology to your benefit to find your inefficiencies right like that. But then you can also enact change, and you can do it quickly. One of the common themes that we've had from a lot of great people that we've had on this podcast is the ability to enact change quickly. And I know you alluded to that in the beginning. I think Evan even alluded to that. One of the respects is just the money loves speed and the quickness that you go at it. Now, if somebody's hearing this, they're like, well, I just got to second guess myself all the time. I'm not sure if this is the right decision. How do you overcome a limiting belief that saying, okay, well, I don't know if this is the right decision. I just got to do it and try.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people I fail so fast that nobody even notices. And if you're moving at 100 miles an hour, I might fail 3 out of 10 times or 6 out of 10 times, but I'm going to win 4 times before you even tried something. And I'm a big believer of just running full speed. And obviously, 70-30 rule, 70% is going to be good. 30 is going to be shit. And you just keep moving on. And you got to get to the point where you're used to failure as well. So everyone's like, oh, you got to get used to winning. Now you got to get used to losing. And it just, hey, shit happens. I lost. Let's move it on. I'm one of the people that'll try anything and I'll run with it. And if it fails, I'll just kick it to the curb quick. And obviously that's by, tracking the data, knowing exactly, if you're winning or losing on that thing. And if you're winning, obviously keep pumping that thing, hammer it down. But if you're losing, just know how to cut the fat quick. Don't hang on to it 6 months. And then 6 months later, you're like, man, I wish I would have cut that 6 months ago. You just got to know when something's not winning.
I love that. Feels so fast
Mm-hmm.
that nobody notices. I'm curious, when you started to trim the fat, you had people on your team that were no longer useful. You know, a quote that I wrote down is, when the cat is away, the mouse will play, right? You were focused on so many different things that your team just kept hiring, your team kept growing. You didn't have control on it. So of course, you know, bad decisions were made and shit happened.
Yeah.
When you started getting real on that and you started to trim the fat, you started to let people go. How did you get buy-in from your team as you started to make those changes?
So I made a mistake, and so I knew I had to make cuts, right?
Yeah.
Instead of being like, hey, let's fucking pull the Band-Aid off and fire everybody or lay everybody off all at one time, we did a death by a million cuts, right? Which was a mistake, because what happens is, like, you cut, say I cut 10 people, then I cut another 5 people, then 6. Well, everybody thinks they're on the fucking guillotine and they're going to get chopped next. And there's no comfort, right? And when there's no comfort in your job and what you're doing every day, can you focus on your job? No. And then also at that same time, obviously, you know, I had everybody and their mother trying to recruit my people. So, you know, I had Ishmael and these other guys, and Ishmael succeeded very well, and he took advantage of that situation and was able to, you know, take a lot of my top performers and top people. And, you know, I won't forget that. It was pretty fun. But, you know, it's one of those, it is what it is, man. Like, hey, dog eat dog. But at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. And I just wish, if I was to go back and do it again, I'd have said, hey, okay, I already knew how I had to cut, but I did it by a million cuts. And by that point, it took me a long time to really build up that trust within my employees again. But I made a decision, like, I won't hire anybody now that I'll ever have to lay off. Like, there's actually a chart that we have in place that tells me exactly how many employees I'm going to need. And it's science behind it, rather than me just going and blindly hiring. I know based on the data that I'm going to need this many employees to be able to hit this revenue, to be able to hit this profit.
And is that similar to, like, what Billy talks about, Billy Stevens, in terms of membership sales and knowing how many maintenance calls that you can run during those slower times of the year? Or what is that based off of?
It's a multitude of things, just based on the amount of people in my database, how many calls we average per day. There's a lot that goes into it. Memberships are big, but I don't need memberships to keep busy. Memberships are good to keep recurring revenue, but I don't need, if you have your business right and you have your software right. So, you know, we have a software that we use that I'm about to start marketing to people, that we are able to keep our schedule filled all the time without spending money, which is nice, right? So, you know, that's what we're working on with Hero 360. We're about to launch next week. Keeping our schedule busy. Like, I stay busy year round. I already know I can hire 10 more technicians tomorrow and be able to run 10 more, you know, have those calls put in place. I know I can handle the management. I know that I can turn those leads into conversions. So now it's just like, I could just keep adding to the puzzle. And I already know I have an endless amounts of leads at this point.
Nice. And that's a rehash program that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a rehash program. It's going to be very, 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 very cost effective. We've been building it out for over a year now. It's completely built. So we're getting ready to launch it, hopefully in the next 24 hours.
Sick.
Exciting.
Heard it here first.
Right? I'm glad you asked the science of hiring employees, because I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of that, because, you know, you hear guys that, well, I mean, it's their woe is me. Oh, I can't find great help. And, you know, here you are trying to find the right people to get rid of in your business, but then also looking to the future and finding in making sure that you're staffed accordingly. So I know you kind of briefly touched on it. What are some of the markers that you're looking at in terms of forecasting to be able to hire people?
Well, I mean, keep in mind, guys, like, I didn't want to lay anybody off. If you guys know me at all, like, I'm very passionate about my employees. And the reason I had to lay people off is because I outkicked my coverage. I didn't realize the amount of capital you need to scale at that rate. Okay. Right. So if you guys are thinking it wasn't anything wrong with my business, like sales or processes, a lot of it had to do with, I didn't realize the amount of capital you have to float to have that many employees. Right. So I scaled over 100 employees very quickly. We were pacing doing millions and millions a month, but it takes a lot of capital to do that. And I didn't go raise capital. I didn't just have a bunch of debt like a lot of these other companies have. They just have capital at their disposal. I didn't have that. So that's what I ran into a cash problem. Obviously the business wasn't dialed in like it should have been. It was still, you know, was not a bad business. It was just, I didn't have the capital to do it. But anyway, so we scaled back. Obviously our goal was to narrow down the processes and get all that stuff in place. And then now, we have a spreadsheet, and I don't really just share it. I can go over the numbers if you're interested in being a client of ours, but that's not something I really share with everybody because it's kind of proprietary to what we do.
Fair.
Need to throw down a simplified version of that on the site so that people can download it for free if they give you their info.
There you go. Cliffhanger. Get him in there. Get a lead magnet.
Well, we're in the middle. We're in the middle right now. We, obviously, I've proven now that with all the businesses that I've partnered with and whatever, I've been able to grow, scale them, double, triple their revenue, triple their profits at this point. And so we're out right now. I'm in the process of building a home service, like a HVAC, pretty much a home service business blueprint, which we're going to be hopefully having on market by the time the event comes. And it's literally going to be, you'll be able to buy the entire blueprint of everything that you're going to need to be able to scale and run these businesses profitably. So we're pretty excited about it. Me and Michelle have been working on that.
That's tight. That's exciting.
Yep. Drop that at the event, and out of 1,000 people, sell it to 800. There you go.
Yeah.
Or more. So hopefully
more. I figured 80% closing ratio at a live event is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Stellar. Something you said in there that I had a question on. I can't remember.
All right, I'll ask mine then. So you mentioned, and you said nothing is off limits. So you mentioned Ishmael and him hiring some of your top talent. And I know that you guys had a beef. You guys buried the hatchet, and now
we're good now.
Right, you're good. You're good now, and I mean, there's a lot of different opinions of different individuals and such in the land of the internet. How can we as an industry, and excluding certain bad actors and characters without naming names in anything in that regard, how can we as an industry come together more versus driving wedges, speaking specifically with the experience that you have with Ishmael?
Obviously you got to understand what me and Ishmael are going through. We're the same age. We're in the same market. We're going after the same employees, the same customers. And we both have big ass goals, right? So a lot of all that beef is like, we're fighting for the same thing, right? So at the end of the day, it was always going to be a complicated thing. And I think, obviously both of us have very, very big egos. Both of us are very, very competitive. So it just it tied in together. So like, that's been my goal. That was why I'm throwing this event. I'm trying to bring everybody back together. I spent the last 4 years beating my chest and trying to separate and all that stuff. And it's just not what I'm about. That's not, like I told you guys, I'm trying to figure out what my true instincts are, my core values. And the way I acted for the last couple of years isn't part of who I am. It's not who I want to be. So I don't think there's any issue. I think, from what I understand, everybody's pretty much together. I mean, at this point, it's software wars. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. So it's and I don't got any issue with Service Titan either. Service Titan's great. Sarah's great. House Call Pro's good for what it does. So it's just, I think everybody just needs to kind of get past that point and kind of move on. I'm past it. I got no issue with anybody. I got no issue. Me and Ishmael are flying out to Vegas next week. Me and him got some big things planned together. So I just think that as an industry as a whole, like we just have so much better stuff to do if we do it together. But you got to remember, there's a lot of fucking money at stake. It's a lot of fucking money, and you guys aren't realizing, like, you guys don't even know the amount of money that's at stake. And what, some of these young guys are fighting for, the Tom Howards, the Ishmaels, any of these, Ken, all these guys are all fighting for a large amount of money. And that's what's going to happen when you got big, powerful, very, very powerful men that are all going after a big, big piece of pie. So it's going to happen. There's going to be competitiveness, and it's just money. But at the end of the day, it's business. Nobody should have any hard feelings towards each other. Someone's going to get the deal. Someone's not going to get the deal,
Totally.
Yep.
Well, at the end of the day, I believe that money reveals character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about 9 figures, 10 figures, like that's a lot of money. And at the end of the day, are you willing to sell out your character for that dollar? Some say yes, some don't, right? So hopefully, like you said, it's, one guy gets the deal, one guy doesn't. Nobody feels bad about it, to the extent that you're not going to do something to sabotage your character. Question I had, and I remember it now, was around partnerships, because you're partnering with businesses now, trying to amplify them, help them grow. You've had good partnerships in the past. You've had bad partnerships in the past. Lessons learned from the bad ones when someone's thinking about either bringing someone onto their business or even getting involved in their business.
I mean, make sure you guys have the same motivation, right? Like, you guys have you guys both have to have your own vision of the business, because I think that's what makes, partnership work. Like, you both have to have your own vision of it. But you have to, if you're going to have a partner, they have to hustle as hard as you. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm guessing you guys are both hustlers. You guys are both trying to work hard. I've had partners in the past. I've had people I dealt with that just don't understand that I'm a relentless motherfucker. Like, I'm all the time, 100 miles an hour every day. And when they want to go on vacation and take time off and do all that stuff, that's just not who I am. And when I want things done, I want them done now. So you got to have that understanding with your partner on how you do business, what your expectations are. Because if you don't set expectations, just like if you don't have a set expectations in your marriage, don't set expectations in your business, whatever it is, you're going to have problems. So if you're going to get a partner, you guys need to set expectations. I recommend writing down an operating agreement or whatever it is. If you guys are like 50-50 partners or something like that. But yeah, just got to find self-motivators. Like right now, me and Bill Pulte, we've been partnering with companies for the last over a year now, almost like 13 months. We've been acquiring businesses together, and we just look for hungry people, man. Like I cannot partner with someone that doesn't have a drive. They're not driving. They're not a driver every day. There's no point. Like no amount of fucking help is going to make you be a good business guy. No amount of help is going to make you have a great business. And I would say I get probably 20 messages a day from people like, hey, would you want to partner with? You want to do this? I'm like, okay, tell me about your business. And they tell me about it. I'm like, dude, you don't even give a fuck about your business. Why the fuck would we care? So I think it's just making sure that you're dealing with people and you're actually interacting with people that have the same common goal in place as you if you're going to partner with them.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
How quick did you recognize when it was a bad partnership, even after you got involved?
Sometimes it's quick, but most of the time it's not. Like, you don't start out trying to have a bad partnership. So, and then
you don't get married hoping to get
divorced. Right.
Well, it's like, yeah, you met your wife or you meet a girl and you hang out and everything's all fucking rainbows and cupcakes, right? Because then you don't even fart around her till like year 4, you know what I mean? And you start farting around her and she's like, fuck, that guy stinks. I don't want to deal with him every day. And it's the same thing as a business partnership, right? Everything's all good until you guys get into bed, and then when shit gets rough is when you really find out, right? Or when shit goes sideways or whatever it is, you find out who's in your corner, and all of a sudden it starts going like this, and once that happens, then it's done. But you could find out pretty early if you actually set expectations of what you want. But a lot of businesses start out of like an entrepreneurial seizure. All of a sudden we're partners. We have no business, but then all of a sudden we come up with an idea, and then boom, we make this thing a business. Well, then greed comes in, all these things come in, and then obviously one guy's out working the other, and the other guy gets pissed off because this guy's working so fucking hard. That's kind of what happens. It happens when businesses start without a plan.
Right.
Operational seizure. I like that term. Because it is, right? It's like some people just happen to like, hey, let's start a business, and they don't actually have any. Obviously we're talking partnerships, but in this realm, like, yeah, or they want to say, hey, let's start a partnership, let's do it. And they don't actually have any conversations in advance, before to see what the vision is. I always think back to like Evan and I, when we started this business together, before we even had any agreement in paper, like, okay, well, what's your vision for a company? And we both talked about the vision and what we want to build. We were going to do it individually. Well, if we want to build the same thing together, let's just fucking do it together. Right? And divide and conquer that. And then you can have a lot more if your visions are aligned.
There's that. Partnerships are good. Trust me. They can be great. You just have to make sure you set expectations. And that's it.
And clearly, that also goes in with clearly defined roles too, right? I mean, what's your expectations of each other, but what are also your roles within the business? Who's going to be responsible for what? If you have a partnership and both people are trying to be responsible for the same thing and this other part gets neglected, your business is going to falter and your business is going to fail. And that's when you start blaming each other, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was something that Greg Fox talked about when he had him on the show. Him and his wife were running the business together up in Sacramento. And, when it came to marketing, it was his decision. And she would try and creep into his lane. And he's like, hon, this is my lane. This is my decision. We're moving forward with this, or we're not moving forward with this. I know you're passionate about it. I appreciate your opinion. This is my decision. And when it came time to operations, it was her decision. And that was it.
Yeah. And that's a good partnership, right? Like if you guys have it outlined what your job is in the beginning, then it's not an issue. But when you don't have anything outlined and then everybody's trying to do everybody else's job, it's going to become a mess.
100%.
Yep. Random question.
Let's do it.
All right. So we have 3 different questions queued up. Question 1, 2, or 3. You don't get to know what they are before. You just got to pick question 1, 2, or 3.
3.
Which one do you want? 3. All right. This item is actually highlighted by somebody.
It was
so
the exact
I don't
one
know.
I wanted.
All right. So the exact one you wanted. So what's your plan for a zombie invasion?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you, but I'll give you a little synopsis of it. For me, if I got a zombie invasion, obviously I'm getting the hell out of LA because I've had to imagine this is where the most zombies would be, either here in New York. So
100%. Yep.
I'm gonna get out of California. So I got the Raptor ready. I'll get that thing loaded. I got some guns. We'll head off probably New Mexico. Sounds like a nice place. There's not anything out there. From there, I just build a fortress around my house. And then once I build a fortress around my house, well, I'll probably pay somebody to build it. Hopefully they're not zombies yet. They'll build the fortress around my house. And then I'll just get a lot of food and shit shipped in. Hopefully, I don't know who's going to ship food when you're not zombies. So I have to figure the food part out. Or just go take other people's stuff because I'll have more guns.
Steal from the best and steal from the best with pride. In this case, I'm going to steal your food, motherfuckers.
Yeah. My old general manager when COVID hit, right, and no one knew what the heck was going to happen, and he's got more guns than God. Like, you should see, he has an arsenal, and because he made a lot of money for a lot of time, and he spent a lot of his money on guns. So I remember when COVID hit, he's like, dude, he's like, everybody else is rushing out to go shopping and all this shit. He's like, I ain't got to go shopping. I got guns. Dude, let's go take all the fucking food they just bought. I'm like, that's savage, but whatever.
I was going to say, people in California have guns?
A lot.
Legally. Yeah. They got to hide them from all the liberals. No, it's funny. I was actually having a conversation with a guy on Monday, and he went straight to Cabela's up here, which is like the hunting store here. And there wasn't a lineup at like the shelter area or like the food preservation area. No, lineup was at the gun counter, and he was there to get ammo. So got
to go down to your safe and you're good to go. I do want to circle back. I know that we've talked a little bit about self-awareness, and you touched on who do you want to become? What are your core values? You weren't living true to yourself over the last 4 years for your core values, and it's always a work in progress. In my opinion, you're never going to be complete where you're at. Who does Victor want to become?
A good question. I mean, I want to go down as, and a lot of people, talk about it, but I think I just want to go down as one of the guys that, brought this industry together. One of the guys that's, paved the way for a lot of other contractors. Like, I think my legacy is I'm going to help more. I told someone the other day, I want to help make more millionaires than anybody else ever. So I want to help as many of these people, and not in just HVAC space. So it's not going to be, for me, I'm really branching out. A lot of the stuff that I'm working on is getting kind of away from the HVAC space, in general. But I just want to be able to help out young entrepreneurs, help young, hungry people go chase their dream. And that's kind of what I'm going to do over the next probably 3 to 5 years, 10 years or whatever, is I'm going to help a lot of young entrepreneurs go chase their dreams and go make them a reality.
So how does that, if I was to say, okay, what are your core values behind that? Because, I mean, obviously we talk a lot about core values on our show. A lot of people have talked about that for your business. What would you say your core values are for you? In how can somebody also institute better core values for themselves?
I don't really talk about mine out in public too much, though.
Okay.
Be honest.
We found something off limits.
All right.
Yeah. I keep my stuff internal on that. So I just, you can say things. I like to show how I act now rather than talk about it, I guess.
Sure. So somebody that might be struggling with their own internal dilemma, what sort of advice would you have for them?
I think it's one of those things that people ask, like, how they should act or whatever the first thing that comes to your head is who you are, who you think. Like, if I always say, make a decision quickly, because that split second decision is usually the one that's most close to you as a person. A lot of people overthink things, and when they overthink it, if they really thought back to the first thing that came to their head and what they wanted to do, that's them. And then every other decision after that they make is not them. It's not their true self. It's something else that they're trying to make up, or persona. So whatever comes to your head first thing, like the first thing you think of when someone says something, that's truly what you believe. And I think you should listen to that first person.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm an
usually your
asshole,
gut
man,
instinct.
'cause most of the time I'm thinking about making fun of somebody. So
That's okay. That's truly who you are. And guess what? People will like you a hell of a lot more if you just made fun of them all day.
absolutely. Shit.
That's That's why we get along so well.
That must be it.
Right? We're assholes to each other.
I'm curious how your core values differ from your business. I know you don't want to get into the personal ones now, but I'm curious how closely aligned those are, because I know that's a practice that you went through not long ago when you were working with Judge and going through that with him. So I'm just curious how closely aligned those two came.
I mean, they're a little bit off. I mean, obviously my business core values, it's our pact. So it's profit, accountability, compassion, and teamwork. So obviously profit is the most important thing in a business. Without profit, you can't provide for your company employees. You can't provide for you can't take care of your customers. You can't do anything. Obviously accountability is got to be important, right? You got to be accountable for all your actions. Compassion, you got to care, compassion's, kind of close to one of my personal core values. And I show that through a lot of things that I do that I don't really post about, but there's a lot of things that I do in my life that really help a lot of other people. And that's really something that's really important to me is giving back to people as much as I can. So compassion, obviously, and then teamwork, teamwork is something, I like. Obviously, as a company is important, right? Your team has to work together. And we hammer our core values home pretty often. And I have a way that I, bring it out to my employees and we talk about it. And so it's in your business, it's very important. But yeah, a lot of your stuff that in your personal life is going to carry into your business. And that's one thing that I've noticed, obviously kind of going through like a mindset change in myself is I've seen that my mindset has changed my employees' mindsets. Like I got one of my top sales guy, David, when I started getting into this, stopping drinking and working out every day and reading, and I started kind of hammering him home, and he kept asking me questions about it. And I was like, look, just stop being just do it. Like me and David have been friends for 20 something years. I'm like, David, you're out of shape. You don't feel good. You don't feel good every day. You're not selling to your full potential. You're doing all these things. I was like, just stop them. And, David's down almost 30 pounds in a month and a half. He's sober. He's running and working out every day. He feels better. He looks like a total different person. So stuff like that, like as a business owner, your employees are a direct reflection of yourself a lot of the time. So, a lot of my employees' lives have gotten better over the last couple of months since I've kind of changed my mentality as well.
It's funny that you say that. I actually wrote that there, a direct reflection of you, and that's what I was going to say to parlay into that. And so, but it's true, right? I mean, who you are and what you do, people take note of that. If you're the leader in the organization and you lead by example, and when you can lead by example, people are going to follow suit.
Yeah, it's huge. And, me and Mark just talked about it on a podcast we did this morning, and it's huge. And, I think that's been the proudest thing for me is watching what I've done transfer onto my employees, transfer onto the company's success as well. Like the company feels like a different place when I got my head right. So,
yep. No, 100%. And that's, even go back to the product that you're about to launch here in the fall, talking about, that organizational blueprint. Tony Robbins talks about this. Like there's the science of achievement, the art of fulfillment, right? Doing what other successful people have done, it's already been done before. You follow the same blueprint, you're going to end up with success as well. It's not hard. It's a math equation at that point. But to feel good about it in the process, that's the art part, because nobody can dictate for you what it is that makes you feel good. What was that realization for you when you realized that it is about people? It's not just about your own hurrah, your own accolades, all the attention that you've got.
Obviously, if you read Wyatt Hepworth told me to read a book called Good to Great, right? And I started reading that, and I got an idea of like, man, I want to be a level 5 leader. Like that's my goal. I don't even want to talk about myself as far as in the business side. I am in, like, obviously I'm trying to build a personal brand. I'm trying to do all that stuff. But when I talk about my company, I talk about my people, I talk about what I could do for them, what they do for me. Right. Like if you see me, like I really have like a servitude attitude now towards my employees. I'm very grateful. I try to give them all the respect and all the accolades, because they're the ones doing it every day. Mm-hmm. And that's, I truly don't, like, you guys don't realize, like, I don't pay myself much through Absolute. I don't even care. I just invest everything back into business. I don't give a fuck. Like, that's, for me, I'm trying to build a place that people from all walks of life can come and make more money than they've ever made before, enjoy themselves, take care of their families. I got employees buying houses, buying their first cars, buying rental properties. Like at this point, like I got employees, just their lives are changing. I got a buddy, I guess I call him a buddy now, but I met him at I met his brother in one of my sales or my business coaching classes in December. And at the after party, he brought his brother, who's Spencer. Spencer was there. Spencer, he's living in a halfway house. He's living off a $47 a month food budget, and he's a big boy too. And Spencer came up to me and he's like, "Hey, I want an opportunity." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I would like a job." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know, man. You're kind of a big boy. I don't know if you're gonna fit in the Maddox, you know." And he's like, "Dude," he's like, "Give me an opportunity." I'm like, "Give me an opportunity." He's like, "Give me an opportunity." So, I gave him an opportunity, and this is December of last year. And last month he made $36,000. Okay, so he was living off a $47 a month food budget, and he's already made well over $100,000 this year. By next year, he's going to be one of my selling technicians. He's going to end up, I think he's going to end up making, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year the rest of his career. And that's the kind of opportunity that I have to change people's lives. And that's what I'm about now. Like I want to change as many people's lives as possible. And along the way, obviously I'll get my praises, my accolades, and I don't really give a fuck, but everything else is just to help others.
It feels good. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Accolades feel good. But at the end of the day, that's not what we're doing it for, right? It's about legacy. It's about impact, making a difference in other people's lives.
I've already won, bro. Like no matter what happens, I've
go.
already won. So like along the way, it's like it's just it's just helping people now.
Love it. I'm curious, where can people get on the wait list for the event?
I don't have a wait list. Well, okay, so I got about 80 people that I sent invoices out to that haven't paid yet. So if you haven't paid your invoice. If you haven't paid your invoice, you have till Friday. And if you don't pay your invoice by Friday, I'm going to sell those to other people. So if you guys do want to come to the event, message me. I'll put you on a list. But for the guys that haven't paid me yet that said, "I'm coming," yeah, right. You ain't going to be coming if you ain't paying your bills. So if you guys do want to sign up, let me know. The problem is I'm maxed out on capacity of the room as is. I already went bigger than I was supposed to. I've already done it's just, I can't grow. There's nothing else I can do. So obviously I'm grateful for the people that signed up early. I'm grateful for everybody that's coming. I'm grateful for the support that we got. It's going to be an amazing event. Like I said, I went all out on it. It's not like last year it's not even the same event. It's nothing the same. This is a whole different fucking level. I mean, just audio visual alone costs more than last year cost. So I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars in audio visual. I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars into speakers. The venue's badass, the food, the entertainment. Like I'm doing this at big, and I'm glad that I got to do something that I've been wanting to do. This is like what I've loved to do my whole life is throw parties. So now I can throw a big ass party. And I literally like that's what as growing up, I always had the best parties in my house. Like that's just how I grew up. I grew up around parties. So I'm throwing an event that's going to change the way people think. I'm really big on, I'm trying to make sure it's not a pitch fest. I'm making sure that it's only actionable content. It's an event for everybody, for sales teams, for their operators, for business owners, or even any entrepreneur. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, that you're going to come get something out of. And next year, we're going to go walk. Next week, I'm heading out to Las Vegas. Me and Ishmael are going to go walk the Raider Stadium because we're probably going to throw the event at their stadium next year and expect about 5,000 people.
Badass.
That place out next.
Right? So we did put up the link to get in touch with them, facebook.com/victor.rancour. If you want to find out more about servicerocketnetwork.com is the website for him, servicerocketnetwork.com. He also said follow him on Instagram because he's putting out some content. So instagram.com/victor_Rancour. These will, of course, be in our show notes for later.
Cool.
It's going to be a badass event.
It's going to be cool. You guys coming or no?
We'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there.
You're going to figure it
whether we have a ticket or not, we'll be there.
We'll sit in the hotel bar and do a podcast all day long.
It's funny because like at first I'm like, dude, I got nervous, man. I'm like, I'm scheduling this. You guys don't understand. I started a whole new entity, a whole new business this year, right? So when you start a brand new business and you go to an event and you say, "Hey, can I pay you when the event's over?" They say, "Hey, fuck you." And they say, "You got to pay me up front." So I've been cutting hundreds of thousands of dollars in checks up front to pay for this thing. And people are like, "Why are you promoting it so early?" I'm like, I got to pay these fucking bills, dude. So like, that's how I promoted the shit out of it. But it's worth it, man. And for me, we put out a lot of money. We put out a lot of time, a lot of effort. Just to, like the VIP guests, like y'all are in for a treat. Like I got some freaking badass shit planned for the VIP guests that we haven't even talked about. everybody that comes to the after parties are going to be blown away by what we're putting on. And then everybody that's at the speaking event, it's going to be sick. Like there's nothing else like it in the industry. I know Service Titan, those are their big event every year. That's probably the one that's going to be competing with it. Right. But what I'm doing is different. This isn't your cookie cutter shit. This isn't boring. I don't have any investors that are telling me how I can and can't talk. I don't got my sponsors can't tell me shit. So it's going to be an event that I get to just have fun and be real and not be so fake. I feel like so many people are so fucking fake, man. And all these events you go to, they're too scared to talk and say real shit. This ain't like that. We're going to be talking real shit. We're going to talk about actionable stuff you can use in your business. And then we're going to have some big ass parties where you guys are going to be able to celebrate all the hard work you guys put in every year. And we're going to continue to do this every year to where all the other events are going to start canceling even doing them because they're all going to come to ours.
Absolutely.
Love that.
And you know what? The one thing I absolutely will say about last year's event that I was actually really disappointed in a lot of the people that were there is that they partied too hard and then they weren't willing to work the next day. Because there were a lot of people that bailed early, and holy shit, did they miss out on a lot of great stuff. There was incredible speakers from the very first one in the day, which was Dan Antonelli, all the way to Ishmael at the end of the day on the second day.
Dude, this year, so you got to understand, like the event starts with Joe Montana. Okay?
Right.
Like we're kicking off with Joe Montana. So
get the fuck out of bed.
Well, that's day one. So normally people like, oh, the event ramps up. Dude, there's not a dead spot in the lineup, and then we end with Ed Milet on the last night. So if you have never heard Ed Milet or you heard about his speeches, like he's gonna make people cry. That's what he's that fucking. Yep. So the shitty part is I got to go before him, but then like, so which is I'll be good. My speech is good. He might be pissed off. He has to go after me when I'm done, but I know that. Yeah, so I know that like day two, I wanted to make it like, dude, we got some badass shit. So we're literally starting the day with the To The Point podcast, the Rhino podcast. We're gonna do it live on stage. That's gonna be me, Chris Yano, Anthony Pereira, Luis Bruno, and Ishmael Valdez all up there talking about what we think the future of this industry is going. So that's how we're gonna kick the day off, and then do just like everything is action packed throughout the whole thing. And if you're a VIP guest, we have breakfast with Joe Montana day one. So I got a private room. You'll be able to have breakfast with Joe Montana. He'll be signing autographs. We do got some special stuff we're going to be sending you guys in advance. So we're pretty excited, man. I think that we've outdone ourselves. And I think this year is another learning curve. And I think next year is going to be even bigger. So we're excited.
Yeah. So there you go. For anyone that hasn't booked their flight yet but has tickets, make sure you book an extra day after the event because one, you're going to need your rest after because you got to get up early and you got to stay up late. Period. End of story.
One way to get into the event, you can still get into the event if you want to be a sponsor. So each sponsor gets a couple tickets. We have some sponsorship levels available. We have some booths available. We also we rented out the whole side of the building so we could put logos on the side of the building. So if you guys are sponsors and you guys want your logos overlooking all the parties and shit, or even the whole strip as you show up, you can have your logos up on the side of Resort World. Throughout the venue, we rented out all the LED screens throughout the venue so you can put your logos throughout the venue too. So there's a lot of sponsorship availability if you guys are interested. But other than that, the event's sold out otherwise. So
can we make sure our logo is behind the To The Point podcast part of the show? Half joking, half serious.
Yeah. But seriously.
No, this has been great, man. And seriously, for anyone that's thinking about doing it that hasn't registered yet, like message Victor, get on the list, put your credit card down ASAP. It's going to be worth it. And at the end of the day, you're going to get out of it what you apply, not just what you sit there and learn about and take notes on. So make sure that you go there with the intention of taking action immediately after the event. That's really the reason why I say book an extra day in Vegas, because you're going to want that time to yourself without any distractions to sit in your hotel room, take notes, and start messaging all of your team to say, this is what we're doing and this is what we're implementing, because ideation without implementation is a fucking waste.
Yeah, and if you guys are 100% opposed to coming out, or you still want to be part of it, we are going to do a virtual. It's still going to be the same price as the general admission ticket to make it fair on the people that are coming. But if you guys want virtual access, I can sell you virtual access. It's $9.95 for the 2-day live stream. You'll get a full live stream and you'll get a recorded video afterwards. But if you guys still want to be part of the event, you can let me know if you want that. We're only going to do a certain amount of those as well.
Sick. See, I told you to be on OnlyFans.
There you go. Live stream. Yeah, just go to the OnlyFans account. It's onlyfans.com/service rocket network. No, I'm kidding. Well, As we wrap up, we do, of course, have one last question here for you, Victor. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
Let's say that's a good question. I don't even know. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. There's nothing that I think of all the time. But what's a good question that people never ask me, Mike?
Oh man, that's a good one. They don't ask enough about your background.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people like talk about what I did before HVAC. I guess like they don't realize like I was a fucking phone sales nightmare before HVAC. Like, so a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I did construction, I did all these little odd end jobs, but you know, I'll tell you a funny story. So I was working at this loan modification place, right? So after the recession happened, they created loan modifications so people that were behind on their mortgages could re-modify their loans, right? Well, someone had to sell those. So, you know, I was like the middleman. So whatever company I was working at, they would send out mailers or radio ads and for loan modification. So I would answer them. And when I answered them, when I first started there, I was the setter. I was just listening to them, and I'd listen to the questions and I would set it off to somebody. Well, I created this process on how to take these calls to scrub them and see if they're any good, right? And I would ask these specific set of questions that get people to see if they're really interested or if we could really get them to buy. Well, all of a sudden, all my leads started selling. And what the fuck did you do? And I said in my list, dude, that's pretty badass. So I said, but you got to let me sell, blah, blah, blah. So they started letting me sell. So I became the number one guy at selling loan modifications at the company. And I still remember the day I was making a lot of fucking money. And all of a sudden, the door gets kicked in and the FBI raids the place. So I didn't know on the back end, this place looked like on the up and up, nice build, beautiful building, and everything seemed to be good. Well, yeah, it didn't happen. So that was pretty fun. The FBI raided this building and I was out of a job. That was in like 2014 or some shit. So that was a fun story.
That was some straight Wolf of Wall Street shit.
Right? Yeah. I was going to say boiler room, but
yeah.
Dude, I used to be able to get people to send me $20,000, $30,000 checks over the mail without ever meeting me.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Born to sell.
And you wonder why this guy can sell. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So,
the event sold out for October and it's August 24th. There you go. You want to learn sales, you hire Service Rocket.
Dude, I told y'all that I kept telling him, like, I'm going to sell this event out. Like, people thought like last year, everybody waited till the last minute. I'm like, dude, I don't think you guys understand. Like, this year is a whole different beast. Like, I wasn't even promoting it that much last year. This year has been nonstop. I think I've been on 25 podcasts in the last 3 weeks or some shit. So I've been on tour pretty much selling this thing out. And obviously the Brad Lee podcast brought in a lot of people. That podcast is nuts, like nuts.
Yeah, man.
Like, you know,
that was great.
Yeah. Have you guys ever watched the show Flip or Flop on HGTV?
No.
With Tariq? He's got like millions. Yeah, I used to watch. He's got like millions of followers. He found me on the podcast, and now all of a sudden we're going to be doing some real estate business together. So it's pretty crazy how many people listen to it.
Nice.
That's really cool.
Nice.
Wicked, dude. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate all that you were doing for the industry. You're making a real impact. You're making a real difference. At the end of the day, people are going to have their opinions, and that's all right. That's up to them, right? And at the end of the day, all you can be is yourself. And I think you're being more true to that today than you ever were. So thank you so much for being vulnerable today. Thank you so much for being you and leading the pack. Appreciate you, brother.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business.